Morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you may be. Thank you for standing by and welcome to today's Tivoli User Community Webcast. Our topic for today is Ask and You Shall Receive. Must have Maximo Anywhere Apps now available. All phone lines are currently in a listen-only mode, and later there will be a question and answer session with further instructions being given at that time. You may ask a question at any time during the presentation using the chat window located in the control panel. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation with the rest of the Q&A. Today's session is being recorded, and you'll be provided a copy of today's materials following the call. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. Dave Calvert has been working within the EAM sector for over 25 years, occupying a series of product design, strategy, and customer support roles. He currently manages the mobile offerings for Maximo, including the Maximo Anywhere product. Dave, take it away.
Thanks very much, Sam. Boy, your introduction sure makes me feel old. Thanks, everybody, for joining with us today. We know that everybody's got a busy schedule, and taking an hour out of your time to listen to what we have to say is greatly appreciated. So with me today is Robert Blaine, who's CTP looking after Maximo products and spends a whole lot of time looking after the presentations of Maximo Anywhere as well. So we're very lucky to have Robert with us today. The approach that we'll take here is that we'll, first of all, we'll cover off the standard IBM disclaimer. We are talking about some futures at various points throughout the webcast, so it is important that, that we legally cover off with our disclaimer. I'll be touching on our mobile vision and our strategy very quickly. I'll get to the product update and talk about the latest application and functional arrivals. And we'll talk a bit about our path forward and our roadmap and what we have planned and some anticipated timing that you can pretty much expect. And then we'll move on to demonstration from Robert, and Robert will cover off some of the capabilities, and not necessarily app by app, but we'll run through some of those capabilities that are now available with the product. And then, as Sam had pointed out, we'll open it up for questions. And if we have time to answer them all, great. If we don't, then we'll definitely circle back and respond to them for you. So when we talk about our mobile strategy, I know that a lot of you have probably seen this slide before, and I purposely used it in an unchanged fashion because I really wanted to drive home the fact that our strategy really hasn't changed. Some of the ways in which we bring products to market and the products that we have available are definitely changed, and they're definitely moving at a different pace than they were a short time ago, and we'll get more to that in a short time. But there's certain aspects of the overall strategy that really hasn't changed over the duration of this project. So we really want to drive home a couple of these points, and first being that Maximo Anywhere is built on the mobile and formerly known as Worklight, as most of you probably recall. But the key here is that we're not just providing applications to solve a Maximo business challenge. It's about providing the platform upon which you can configure the applications and create new applications that have nothing to do with Maximo. So it's about taking a large step in terms of meeting your enterprise-wide mobile objectives, not just in solving a Maximo-related business problem. Some of the other aspects that remain part of the overall strategy, certainly that we run all of our apps, with the exception of a couple, and I'll point those out, running in connected and disconnected mode. Certainly all those where disconnected is required. And we support Android, iOS, and Windows mobile operating systems. And we respect those configurations that you make in Maximo, and they don't automatically appear in the mobile apps, but they are understood and respected at the metadata layer such that they can be exposed and included in the application through minor configuration. One thing that I touched on in our last webcast was a change in our delivery strategy. not the overall strategy, but certainly from a delivery standpoint. And we do this through the ISM library, and the ISM library is now a very critical part of our delivery mechanism. And as you'll see, as we step further into the webcast and the delivery content, that we're really focusing on getting the applications in the hands of users and our business partners as soon as they're available, as soon as they're ready. And in the past, if you recall, we were paying a very heavy tax in addressing the demands of the platform, and we were serious about getting the platform right. So we put a lot of effort into it, and as such, our emphasis was less so on the applications themselves and more so on the platform. And now we kind of tipped the scales, and the applications are more of our focus point through our own ability of having addressed the platform requirements. So we're at a point now where we can deliver applications much, much faster, and as a result, the ISM library and the delivery mechanism becomes very much more important and a key part of our delivery strategy than even it was before. And you'll see that in the coming slides. So we start talking about our product update. It was not very long ago where we were talking about the work execution application and the work approvals app and the inspection app and the physical count app, and that was basically it. And in the last webcast, we talked about the introduction of the inspection app and the physical count application and some enhancements to the work execution application, and as well our administration app. So that was all new to the release back in June, and a lot's changed in that period of time. So back in June, we were talking about, as I said, in work execution, work approval, physical count, and our inspection app. And now in September terms, we included, or through the ISM library, we delivered the service request application, asset data manager, and our issues and returns application. And as we look not very far forward, we talk about material transfers and receipts and asset audits being a part of the delivery as well. So as you can see, there's 4 apps that were the cornerstone of what we had brought to market just as recently as June, and yet in that time between September and November, December, we're at a point where we've more than doubled the number of applications available. So when we talk about what really has arrived over the short term, we talk about well, not just applications. We've also brought style updates. So in terms of the UI and usability of the product, that too, even though our emphasis is on applications themselves, that doesn't mean that's our only focus point. So we're also focused on evolving the usability of the product, and part of that, and you'll see in subsequent releases, you also see additional style updates with this release, and what you'll see when Robert performs his demonstration. You'll see alternating list item color, and things are a little bit more separated than they were before, and a new list header color, and those two are changeable, of course, but we added them to make it a little easier to use the product, and for records to be a little more easily viewed by the user, etc. And there'll be more changes similar to that coming in future. With our Asset Data Manager, we really wanted to satisfy that capability of that persona of the tradesperson out in the field, and if their responsibility is looking after assets and their responsibility is validating that things are in the right place, and that they're doing the right job, and that they're of the right status and they're working properly, then that's where Asset Data Manager comes in, because it really gives you the ability to well, certainly see the assets that you're responsible for, but change their status if necessary, validate the the attributes of the asset details that are associated with that asset, report downtime if that's appropriate, as well, provide meter readings, and basically just carry out all of the traditional aspects that a tradesperson responsible for a series of assets would typically perform. The other piece of this is that you're also able to create new assets if the assets themselves are unrecognized by Maximo. So if you encounter a new asset out in the field, then use the Asset Data Manager in order to add it. Issues and returns. We talked in our last webcast about physical count being that first inventory-related application, and we continue that commitment to deliver on the inventory applications. So issues and returns has arrived, and certainly the ability to issue your items and tools as required from work orders, the ability to stage those reserved items if you so choose, and leveraging inventory usage docs, rotating items, barcode scanning, of course, is a key part of this as well. So in short, be able to carry out issues and returns from a mobile capacity as you would expect through the traditional operation of Maximo. The service request we added as well, and continue to add functions to the service request application moving forward. So in essence, this first release is for the tradesperson that's out there and notices something that's amiss, and they need to report that problem. So creating or generating that service request is a key capability that's now available, and we'll continue to evolve that over time, and I'll elaborate on that as we go. So when we talk about our path forward, if we jump to our roadmap, this roadmap, it's there's a lot of things on here that you expected to see, but the time frame of which they're being made available has changed significantly since the last we met in June. So on the far left-hand side with the June release, you can see what we talked about in the past webcast. Now we start getting into the ISM deliverables and how when applications and capabilities are available, then we deliver them without having to wait for the subsequent platform release. So when we talk about the September and the October and the December drops, these are anticipated time frames for applications and functional enhancements to be made available. And as I said before, when they are available, they're posted on the ISM library. And as you see, September, October, December, that Q1 deliverable is basically a summary of what has been staged throughout that September to Q1 time frame. So specifically, as I mentioned before, issue returns, service request, asset data manager, in that capability of reporting downtime, and you'll see this as a common thread as we move forward. Those functions are often added to more than one place, so that where it makes sense, we'll add it to various applications, and as well, if you, as a customer or business partner, you may feel the need, and please do, configure the application to take that report downtime feature, for instance. If you want it somewhere else, then put it in one of the other apps. You're welcome to do so. When we zero in more on the October timeframe, which these changes have been posted to the ISM library and are now available. Further style changes, we've added GPS to service request and work execution, signature capture, so that capability of being able to scribe a signature much the same way as you do with an arriving package. Introducing our receiving, our asset audit capabilities, material transfers, and adding asset moves for both Asset Data Manager and Work Execution. So again, these are pieces that are just available, and you'll be hearing more about those in future webcasts. And as well, we move further and include, if we just jump to that Q1 release, then you'll also see all of the pieces that we've talked about basically, as well as the calibration application to be added as well. So that's basically where we're headed over the next few months, and a bit of an explanation of how the ISM deliverables cumulatively contribute to a larger release. A partial view of some of the development focus areas in our future releases, and this is by absolutely no means a full list of where we're headed. We'll be including push notifications and mobile first currency at the platform level, and as I mentioned before, we'll be adding additional style and UX enhancements. From an app standpoint, we'll be focusing heavily on excuse me, the arrival of some of our industry solution capabilities, and in support of that, we'll be adding things like cruise and crew management applications. We'll be looking at linear assets and location-based services, and a lot of the things that we'll be rolling out will be adding, as I mentioned before, to more than one application wherever it makes sense. And specifically with our industry solutions, you'll be seeing incident reporting. You'll be seeing station rounds from nuclear, permit requests coming down the road with oil and gas, and CU in progress enhancements through utilities. So again, be a heavy focus on delivering some of the key capabilities within the industry solutions now that we've reached that point where we're currently at. A couple of points to raise before I hand it over to Robert. So consistent with what we also spoke of in the last webcast back in June, we had some packaging changes that were introduced with that 7.5.2 release, and the driver here was to make it more simple for our Maximo customers, and any customers may leverage all of the Anywhere mobile applications without having to purchase additional bundles. So if you recall from previous discussions way back, we initially spoke of how we had bundles that were going to have groups of applications introduced, and that's all gone away. We've made it much more simple, and as a result, an Anywhere customer may leverage any of the applications that are available. The only exception would be industry solution mobile apps, those that are created and released by the industry solutions. The customer obviously would have to have that industry solution core entitlement with Maximo in order to use those applications. And with that, I will hand the ball over to Robert Blaine in order to walk you through some of the enhancements that we've introduced over the last while.
Okay, hello everyone. So what you should see on the screen today is we're actually broadcasting two devices. One is a Google Android Galaxy Tab 3 on the left side of the screen, and then we have our Apple iPad on the right side of the screen. Once again, as Dave mentioned, we support Google Android operating system, Apple iOS, as well as Windows. So it really gives you a multitude of devices at which to select from. So as Dave also mentioned, we're not going to have time to show the entire screen. As you can see, we've greatly expanded from our initial offering of just work execution and work approval, but now we have, as Dave mentioned, Asset Data Manager, inspection, issue returns, physical count, service requests, and of course the two preliminary applications that we have. So we'll jump right into it here. The first thing I want to show from the Google Android device is this new style and format that Dave mentioned here. So once again, we still maintain that this is a very simplistic presentation here. This isn't the Las Vegas of applications. This application is really meant for the user to focus on what work they have in front of them. unapologetically simple interface meant for just the rent turning, just doing the physical counts, et cetera, et cetera. So they're not encumbered by complicated menus or tabs or navigation. You're really just clicking on a functional area and driven into what you need to see there. So we'll start the timer for our annual pump maintenance here. Brings us to in progress, and if we have connectivity, this will go to home base where the foreman or the supervisor can see just exactly what's going on with their field workforce there. So started that timer. I'm going to jump into the details of that annual pump maintenance here. There may be a little screen lag with this presentation software. So we have our work order 101 information. We've ported over a lot of that functionality, so now we can see not only meter reading, but now we can quickly, with this icon, report uptime and downtime of this asset as we work on it. In this scenario here, I'm simply got my cup of coffee, I have my device. With this annual pump maintenance, I need to acquire some material before I go out to the field there. So I'm going to bring up the material pickup barcode, and now I'm going to switch my role, my hat, and jump into the issues returns application. So once again, very simplistic interface here. Really 3 functions that a issues and returns user is responsible for: issuing those reserved items, so planned materials, maybe some additional items, maybe there's emergent work that came down the pipeline and you need to do these spot issues. And then of course, at the end of the shift, perhaps someone didn't use all the material, so we can easily return those items. So what we're going to do is we're going to issue those reserved items here, and we're going to enable the technology of the device. So we're not fat-fingering in that often long-winded work order number. And in our demonstration environment, it's only 4, but I can guarantee that folks out listening here probably have a longer than a 4-digit work order number with numbers and letters. So with that, I'm just going to simply click on that, and that's going to enable the camera here. And I'm actually going to literally scan the Google Android device there for that barcode. So that populates that work order number, and then I quickly click that search button there. So what this does is brings up the material reservations for that work order number. So what I can do is I can go to the shelf, go to bin A49, pick up the mechanical seal, walk over to the contractor renewal kit, and then finally go to D96 and pick up the gasket there. So I can also modify these values. Perhaps additional gaskets are needed, or I can simply just click on that complete, and that'll create the issue transaction for that work order number there. So with that, the field technician can go out in the field and can do the maintenance there. So we've quickly just done a quick issue there, and now we can move on to some of the other functionality there. So we'll go back here, and then we'll take a look at the Asset Data Manager application. So we'll switch gears and go to this here. So what we're doing, and what we do in most of the applications here, is the data is driven by queries. So in your assets application, in your work order tracking application, chances are you have a query for, this is the work orders that I have to process on a daily basis. This is a living query. I execute on that. Assets here, maybe these are the assets that I'm a custodian for, or I'm a user and owner of. So these are the ones that are going to download to me. And once again, these queries are highly configurable from the applications that you use on a daily basis. So maybe you need to make a change. So you can change that on the core side in the assets application and the work order tracking application, and that'll just post on down to the device here. So we're not messing around with files or configuration. We're simply just making a change to core, which translates on down to the device. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at that centrifugal pump here, and we're going to prepare it for production. So right now it's not ready, so I'm going to simply bring it up to an operating status here. So we have our list of statuses, click on that, and if it's part of a hierarchy, we can roll that status to the children assets if we so choose. So we've made that operating. what we'll also do is we will take a meter reading. And once again, in Core Maximo, that could enact some preventive maintenance scheduling as we're taking that meter reading. Now we can see our run hours have increased. And now this asset is not up, so we're going to report some uptime here. We're going to change that status, and we're going to bring that asset up. Now we can see that the asset has been brought up. So now this asset is ready for production. So as we're in the room here, we notice that there's an asset that looks kind of foreign to us. We've never seen it before. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new asset on the fly. And chances are you have a workflow process involved, and that will enable this asset to be onboarded through your business processes. So it'll go to someone for verification that yes, this is indeed a new asset. So here I'm just going to put in some numbers here, and then I'm going to populate the description here. And then we can also populate the location. Once again, saving the task of data entry here, we can barcode scan, we can use a lookup here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare that I found this in the office. And then also I can, if I have intimate knowledge of this, I can populate the failure class. Maybe it's a high priority asset here. So once again, using the lookups here, really saving a lot of data entry time. Instead of having to use the cumbersome keyboard, we can simply use the lookups and we can create this asset. So now once again, based on your queries, we're going to see we're taken to a new query called assets created locally. So as I'm going out about the campus, I have an exact report of what assets I've created on the fly there. So we'll go into that one. So now we know, okay, we can do some additional data entry there. We can even change the status and make this an operating status here. So once again, very clean, very easy to use interface. Let's say there's an asset out on the field that we want to do a search for. So what we can do is we can do the search. So if we have connectivity, we can populate maybe an asset number or description or some sort of search criteria here, and that we can be brought to that specific asset here. So a good way to kind of transcend beyond your initial query. Chances are you have hundreds of thousands of assets. Not really feasible for all 100,000 assets to be on a user's device just because it would be too cumbersome for them. But if they need to do a specific search on a specific asset, they can always do that search provided that they have connectivity. And that resides in the whole infrastructure of all the applications. Work execution, perhaps there's an emergency work order that came down that is outside someone's query. They can key in a specific work order and download that. So it really gives you a lot of that advantage of having the store and forward solution. If you have that rich connectivity in place, you can certainly take full well advantage of it. So speaking of, as we're walking around the campus here, doing our maintenance of that annual pump, discovering that new asset, we happen to notice there was a storm last night. We see a tree on one of the side roads here. So colorful example. So we're going to jump into the service request. Now really anyone can have this service request on their phone, on their tablet, whatever have you, and it really gives someone an opportunity to report findings that they see, whether they're skilled to repair it themselves or in this maybe example, I'm an electrician, I don't really deal with cutting of trees, not my forte, so I can simply report this and create that new request here. So once again, very simple. The only thing I could really populate here is the description. And once again, using the technologies of the device here, we don't have to use that keyboard. We can simply use that voice to text. Fallen tree on Main Street. period. And we're done. So at this point, we could capture the GPS. So we would, the person dispatching the service request would know exactly where we were when we did this service request here. So I could even bypass the populating of the location in the asset because we're going to be capturing that GPS signal, that GPS coordinates when we create that service request. Once again, that's going to go to home base, and chances are you have a workflow process involved that'll pick up the various key attributes that were put into that service request and can be handled and can be routed accordingly. So if we have a fallen tree, chances are it's a very high priority work order and it'll be dispatched to a tree crew, if you will. So we can also take a look at service requests that I've reported here. So we can navigate through all the service requests. There's the one about the fallen tree there. So we can see exactly what I have reported, and I've been busy here. Once again, using the queries. So we have a query here that's basically just driving what data that we see down on the device, not reinventing the wheel for what we need to see. So that really is a summary of the new applications that we see today, and it's joined by the inspections application that I'm sure many of you have seen before, work execution, of course, and physical count here. So we can finish up here with maybe there's some additional issues that we have to do. So we'll go back to that work order. This time we'll populate the work order number here. And because we filled the reservation there, there's no reservations left, so we're going to issue additional items to this work order using the select or the barcode there, and then we're going to issue out a connecting link. Searching for that item, seeing where it exists. This we're going to issue it to a specific person here. Rebecca Allen is working on this. And then here's where we can populate that specific work order there. And here, just as we see, because we have that connectivity and because this is really built on the foundation of Maximo, we're given that instantaneous feedback on maybe some information that we haven't populated here. So I neglected to put in a quantity, so those business rules are going to dictate that you really need a quantity for this. So we can see that without that, the transaction would fail. So we're given that instantaneous feedback. So let's say we didn't have connectivity. That would be stored in the local data store of the device that's specific and secure to the user. When they have that connectivity, again, that'll flush out. So let's say I created a work order for an asset and maybe I fat-fingered that asset or incorrectly populated it. That would be processed by the Maximo business objects, kind of the gatekeepers, if you will, and that'll say, hey, this asset really doesn't exist. So we've just committed that additional item issue there, and we're done with our issues and returns. So we definitely have some time for some questions and answers here. Once again, this is a subset of the functionality of the Complete Anywhere solution. And as Dave mentioned, one license really gives you what you see here today and then what you'll see coming down the pipeline with the roadmap that Dave discussed.
Sam, if you can pass that back over to me for a moment.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so in summary, we touch on a few of the value points before we open it up to questions. And a couple of these points we touched on already, but just to drive them home, our overall goal was to create that single mobile platform for our entire portfolio. So as I was mentioning before, whether it be Maximo or industry solutions, to a certain degree Triega as well, the key here is that we wanted everything to reside on a single mobile platform so that customers don't have to install or maintain or administer multiple systems. And our goal here is to deliver a high number of role-based mobile apps, not a very low number of jam-packed mobile apps. So if you guys all recall, Maximo Mobile, the legacy mobile product that we had for years, only 3 real core applications that were a part of the product, but they had everything but the kitchen sink in there, and they're heavyweights. And this is not the approach that we're taking with Maximo Anywhere. And as you see from Robert's demonstration, that the focus here is on understanding the role and carrying that role forward, providing that user with the information they require in satisfying the demands of that role. We also want to touch on the fact that we protect the investment. I mentioned Maximo Mobile. Customers that have our legacy Maximo Mobile product are welcome to migrate their license over to Maximo Anywhere. And we do so right now. We offer that right now for any Maximo Mobile work management users, and we'll be expanding that to include, because we are bringing the asset management and inventory management apps to market now, we'll be expanding that Maximo Mobile migration offer to include the asset management and inventory management products as well. And for customers that do want to go that route, if you have a successful Maximo Mobile implementation already, and you care to simply migrate a portion of your existing licenses over, then feel free to do that. There's no, it's not an all or nothing approach. Feel free to migrate a few over, and then bring the rest over when convenient. And there's no reason that that Maximo Mobile and Maximo Anywhere can't operate right alongside one another. I think one of the most important points, though, to drive home is when we're talking about value, it's the core upon which the Maximo Anywhere product is based, and it's based on the mobile first platform, and that's the IBM standard for mobile, and it's our standard as well. And as I mentioned a while back, it's all about providing those ready-made Maximo-based mobile applications, but it's also about providing that foothold in establishing or making progress upon your own enterprise-wide mobile strategy. And mobile first being the core of our product allows you to do just that. Some information sources for you that you can refer to as you review the slides when you have time afterwards. And as Sam had mentioned, a PDF copy of the slides will be made available to you. So we do have some time for questions, and we've had a number of them logged in through the question submittal chat window. So let me knock off a few of these. So Harold Williams had mentioned, he pointed out about the mobile operating systems which we support. And just to be clear, we support Android, iOS, and Windows, and Windows 8.1 tablet right now, and we if you recall from the roadmap, the statement that Windows 10 and iOS 9 will be supported, and they're basically there now. No need to wait for that Q1 release. Amin had mentioned that the SR product looked like it was a reasonable template for HS&E, and it's funny you bring that up, because as we discuss the overall approach with the oil and gas and HS&E guys about best way to and most efficient way to move forward with the incident reporting app, that was exactly their point too. Is, hey, why don't we leverage the current SR app and do the changes that we need to do to the SR app to make it easier for us, and that's exactly the path that they chose to take. Robert, a quick question for you. Aaron had asked, what tool are you using to project the device images?
I'm sorry, that's a trade secret. I'm just kidding. Good question. A lot of people do ask that. It's a product called Reflector 2. And it allows me to obviously broadcast multiple devices at the same time, as well as record activities, so I can record the movements on the mobile device.
Great, thank you. We also have a question about workflow. Robert had mentioned about how various points throughout the process of work, as data gets sent back, perhaps it's a status change that gets sent back to Core Maximo, then the work order can then be picked up again by an existing workflow process, or can be dropped off into someone's inbox, for that matter, through an existing workflow process. But no workflow process logic actually exists on the device itself. So the applications themselves operate independent of the workflow process. So really, a wait node drops that work order off into the hands of the tradesperson, and then is picked up again in a workflow process moving forward. And we are looking at different ways in which to bring workflow onto the device, but it's funny, when we sit down and we talk with customers, a lot of customers will say, oh, we've got to have workflow on the device. And, well, when you really get down to talking with them about workflow and what workflow means to them, in some cases the workflow that we already support independent of the apps themselves is often enough. In other cases it's not, and we're evaluating different workflow related functions and prioritizing with them our other activities to see if we can incorporate that into future applications. Anna had asked about searching for assets via barcode. Absolutely. Barcodes can be used in many capacities throughout the applications. You saw Robert with his work list. Barcode can be used to filter that work list. Barcode can be used to filter an asset list. If you're searching, you can use the barcode in order to populate the field for the basis of your search. Amin had asked about how is the service request application licensed. And just to recap, a user of Maximo Anywhere, it's authorized user-based, and a user of Maximo Anywhere has access to any of the applications that you as the administrator deem appropriate for them to access. So what that means is that there is no specific license per se just for the SR, service request application. Now let me also point out that the service request application as it exists today is a service request application. It's not a self-service service request application. So, the licensing model at this moment doesn't support it to be a self-service service request application, and in my opinion, nor does the functionality at this moment. We are looking at taking the application in that direction, in which case you'll also see some alterations in the licensing model that would make the model more suitable for the self-service service request user. Another question was, is there a site that you can log into in order to provide demonstrations for the clients? And absolutely there is. We use a site internal to IBM. It's called Seaside. I forget what the acronym is actually all about. And but what you can do is you can request an account, a Seaside account, and once you have your Seaside account, then you can go in and you can identify various tools that you choose to demonstrate over and above Maximo Anywhere. And if you do want to go down that path, shoot me an email. I'll get you the email address upon which you request your account if you don't have one already, and we can. And I'll also provide you instructions on how you can enable the Maximo Anywhere instance. We have a few other questions here that I'm just kind of reading off the top of my head. Robert, feel free to jump in if there's anything that you care to add that that we didn't talk about while I scour the questions.
Sure thing. Yeah, here's a good. Oh, go ahead, David.
No, go for it, Rob.
Sure. Michael Fredericks brought up a good question. Please show how individual queries are configured. So basically, it's going to be a function of the app that the Anywhere application is working with. So with work execution, you're going to be in your work order tracking application, and really you're going to be able to select from the single query or the multiple queries that are in that work order tracking application. And that's done in the Anywhere administration application, where you have to choose which query you want to do, and that can be disseminated by security group. So Dave's an electrician, I'm a plumber, we share the same device, but the good thing is, based on his security group, he'll be issued a different query than I will be, and it'll really be transparent to the end user. And I hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Robert. So we have another question regarding offline attachments, and absolutely the product can be configured to handle the download of attachments. It's actually, there's not much configuring to do. It's a standard capability now of the work execution application. What you do have control over, though, is some of the efficiency aspects. So things like the file size. You know, do you really want to be sending down instructional videos to the device? And if so, fine, go ahead. If not, then you're more than welcome to set a file size as well as other parameters. The other aspect that you have control over is whether you send the attachments down by default at all. So if you know that the user is going to be in a connected, pretty much connected environment, then by all means have them simply go and request those attachments when they are required. And a simple checkbox is all it takes in that regard. There was another question about Google Maps. I don't think Robert touched on maps much at all, which is fine, because the focus point today was on what's new, and we haven't really added much new in terms of maps. But we did add in the last release online maps for Esri, as well as the offline maps, which we already support. But the question itself specifically was, would we be expanding to include Google Maps? And the answer is very definitely maybe. We are exploring expanding our mapping capability to cover off a number of different map providers. Google's one of them that we're discussing. So expect some expansion in that area. Google may well be part of it, but we'll have to see on that one. Any other questions, Robert, that you cared to jump in on while I was answering these ones?
Sure thing. I see Drew has a question about filtering work order assets based on the logged-in user. And with that Anywhere administration application, not only do you have the power to control what primary data you're downloading, so show me my work orders or show me my team's work orders, but also we have lookup data that we can control rigorously as well too. So you can create a lookup query for assets. So instead of getting the whole kit and caboodle for all the enterprise assets, you can use a substitution variable. So show me the ones that relate to that logged in user. So I hope that answered your question there, Drew.
We also have one from Aaron that says, does the barcode scanner use the device's built-in camera or an attached device? Answer is actually both. So the earlier releases of the applications supported the use of the camera within the device, and you're welcome to continue using that, although the use cases that we accommodate now are quite a bit more broad than they were back at the beginning. Inventory use, for instance. In a lot of cases, in inventory environments, the camera barcode scanner is not suitable, whether it be lighting or distance or whatever the case may be. Hence, our support for Bluetooth scanners so that low light conditions can more easily be accommodated, as can the longer range scans that are required in most storerooms. Another question, excuse me, came in regarding can we configure the service request application to add a few fields, and the answer is yes. And it's not just a case of this being applicable to service requests, it's applicable to any of the applications. We wanted to, our overall goals with the Anywhere applications were to provide that same capability, albeit a different tool set and a different level of effort than core Maximo with the app designer, but we wanted to be able to give customers the ability to configure the applications to meet their specific requirements, just as they can with Maximo. So it's a little bit different than doing it with core Maximo, but yes, you are absolutely welcome to add fields to your service request application. Any further, Robert, that you care to jump in on?
I think someone did have a question about ruggedized devices, and that always is it's a pretty big question. So there's a lot of device manufacturers out there. Motorola is one, Intermec is another, that are making ruggedized Google Android devices, and we all love our iPads and our iPhones and our smartphones, but in a ruggedized environment, they will simply not work up to the task. So there's a lot of manufacturers out there that are starting to come up to speed with Google Android ruggedized devices. Good question.
Another question from Peter Zupan, who had asked about the ability to take photos with the inspection application, and yes, absolutely. You basically take photos with any of the applications, at least where appropriate, and the inspections app is no different in that you can use the camera on the device in order to capture detail about the either work location, the asset itself, excuse me, and then add it back into the work order and subsequently send back to core Maximo back in the server. There's another question about the SR app, and actually more of a point than a question, in that the SR app is going to have subsequent releases that have additional changes, and that actually applies to all of the applications. The first release of SR, for instance, did not have capture a photo, and the release that followed basically 3-4 weeks afterwards included that capability. So it's all along the whole idea of we take the apps, and when they're ready, we put them out on the ISM library, and they're fully supported. But that doesn't mean that the development stops, and we continue adding additional capabilities as the applications evolve. And I think that's about it at this point in time. I think that like we do have, I've been trying to keep up with a lot of these questions, but there are more questions here than those which I've answered. I can definitely pledge to respond to each of them. There are a couple that are technical based that are more along the lines of support nature questions, of which I'll obtain the answer and get it back to you, or plug you directly in with our support folks. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining, and again, I know that your time is valuable and that your schedules are busy, and Robert and I appreciate you taking the time to join the webinar. And if you have any additional questions, you know where to reach me. My email address is on the slide previous to the one you're looking at, and you're welcome to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer your questions or speak with you about any capability that that you'd care to discuss.